Your daughter-in-law's here with some men. She says she's the new owner and she's going to take the furniture. Mr. Evans' voice sounded nervous on the phone. It was 5 in the morning, and I was in my beach house, still lying down, with the window open, letting the cool ocean breeze drift in. I'd come here right after Elijah's wedding, seeking peace, distance, a break from everything I'd been feeling over the last few months. I slowly sat up in bed. I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel surprise. I felt something strange, almost like satisfaction. "Don't stop her, Mr. Evans." My voice came out calm, serene. "Let her in. She's going to find a surprise." There was a confused silence on the other end. "Are you sure, Miss Montgomery?" "Completely sure. Let her pass with her men. Just make sure she signs the visitor log with her full name and ID." I hung up and immediately opened the app on my cell phone, the one for the security cameras I'd installed 3 weeks ago. No one knew about them. Not Elijah, not Rhiannon, not even my friend Charlotte. They were tiny, invisible, strategically placed in every corner of the condo. Living room, kitchen, bedrooms, main entrance. They were all live streaming and recording directly to the cloud. The image popped up on my screen. There she was, Rhiannon Thurman, my daughter-in-law of barely 4 months, standing in the lobby of my high-rise, talking to the men accompanying her. 3 big guys in moving company uniforms. One of them was carrying empty boxes. Another was checking something on a clipboard. Rhiannon had her hair pulled back and was wearing activewear, as if she'd come from the gym. But her face showed something else: anxiety, urgency, determination. I watched her speak to Mr. Evans. She was gesticulating wildly, pointing toward the elevator. Although I couldn't hear what she was saying, I read on her lips something that made me clutch my phone tighter. "It's my right. It belongs to me now." I tapped the screen and changed to the camera for the hallway on my floor. It was still empty, silent. My apartment door was closed, intact. I returned to the lobby image. Rhiannon was already getting into the elevator with the 3 men. Mr. Evans stayed behind, watching them leave with a worried look on his face. A good man. He'd worked in that building since I moved in 10 years ago. He knew my routine. He knew I'd been alone since my husband passed. He always greeted me with respect. I took a deep breath. My heart was racing now, but not from fear. It was anticipation, like when you know something important is about to happen, and you, for the first time in a long time, are in control. The elevator climbed. 6th floor, 7th, 8th, 9th. My condo was on the 10th. I watched the doors open, and Rhiannon stepped out first, hurried, followed by the men. She walked directly to my door and pulled something out of her purse. A key. My key. The image was clear. The hallway camera captured everything. Rhiannon put the key in the lock, twisted it, and the door opened. They all entered. The light inside the apartment turned on, and I switched to the interior cameras. There they were, in my living room. Rhiannon was looking around with that calculating, evaluating expression I'd seen before, as if she were appraising every object, every piece of furniture, every detail of my life. The men waited for instructions. "That couch first," I clearly heard her say. The camera audio was perfect. "And that table. Be careful with the vases. Those are expensive." One of the men looked at her strangely. "Are you sure the owner gave permission?" Rhiannon looked at him with annoyance. "I'm the owner now. My mother-in-law signed everything over to me. She's old. She can't take care of these things anymore. It's better that they're with me." I sat perfectly still, staring at the screen, listening to every word. Old can't take care of. The same phrases I'd heard from her mouth for months, but now said with such confidence, such certainty, that I wouldn't be there to contradict her. Another man asked, "What about the paperwork? We usually need to see something in writing." Rhiannon pulled a piece of paper from her purse, flashed it quickly without letting them read it well. "It's all legal right here. Now move it. We have to finish before the sun comes up." Before the sun comes up, before anyone saw, before the neighbors woke up and asked questions, before anyone called the police. But it was already too late for that. because while she was talking, while the men were beginning to lift my furniture, while Rhiannon was checking the drawers of my dresser looking for who knows what, the cameras were recording everything, every movement, every word. And not just that, the app had already sent an automatic alert to my attorney, Olivia Sterling, and to the nearest police precinct. I'd set up that system 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks after the dinner at Elijah's house where I felt sick. 3 weeks after I started noticing strange things. 3 weeks after I heard Rhiannon talking softly on the phone about accelerating the process. I looked back at the screen. Rhiannon had entered my bedroom. I watched her open my closet, check my vanity, and reach into my jewelry box. She pulled out a necklace that my late husband had given me for our 20th anniversary. She held it up to the light, smiled, and slipped it into her pocket. "I'll take this one, too." One of the men appeared at the door. "Ma'am, there's a lot of stuff here. Are you taking everything?" Rhiannon turned around. "Everything that's worth anything. My mother-in-law doesn't need it anymore. She's in a better place now." The way she said it, as if I were already dead, as if my life had ended and she were just picking up the remains. I closed my eyes for a moment. I took a deep breath. The sound of the ocean calmed me. When I opened them again, I touched another icon on the app. The cameras had a special feature. They could record conversations even when people thought they were speaking privately. Rhiannon had returned to the living room, took out her cell phone, and called someone. She waited. Then she spoke. "I'm inside. Yeah, with the key I took last week. No, she's not here. She's at the beach house, same as always. This is going to be quick." A pause. She was listening to someone on the other side. "No, the tea didn't work. Looks like she stopped drinking it. But it doesn't matter now. This is enough. Once I have everything out of here, I'll make Elijah sign the papers. He doesn't suspect a thing." Another pause, then a laugh. "Obviously, he won't like it at first, but when he sees that it's already done, what's he going to do? She doesn't have anyone else. We're her only family." My hand tightened on the phone. The tea. Those afternoons at Elijah's house, when Rhiannon insisted I stay for a snack, when she prepared that herbal tea she claimed was good for circulation, for sleep, for the nerves. That tea, after which I always felt dizzy, confused, with nausea that lasted for hours. It wasn't just my paranoia. It wasn't the imagination of an older woman. It was real. Rhiannon continued talking. "Look, with what's in here, we can sell at least $20,000 worth. And that's not counting the condo. When we sell that, that's like $200,000 more. We'll be set for years. And she won't even be able to claim anything. By the time she figures it out, everything will be in our names." She hung up and stood in the middle of my living room, looking around with that satisfied, victorious smile. I stayed seated in the bed at the beach house, phone in hand, and tears I didn't know were there, until I felt one roll down my cheek. It wasn't for the furniture. It wasn't for the money. It was for the betrayal. It was for realizing my son had married someone capable of this. It was for all those times I doubted myself, thinking I was overreacting, telling myself I was just a jealous mother-in-law, a bitter old woman who couldn't accept sharing her son. But that wasn't it. Rhiannon Thurman had planned to rob me. She had tried to poison me, and now she was in my house, in my space, touching my things, taking my life piece by piece. I looked at the time, 5:25 in the morning. The police must have already received the alert. Olivia had too. At any moment things were going to change, but before that happened, I needed to understand how I had reached this point. How a 60-year-old, independent widow who had raised her son alone after her husband died, who had worked her entire life, who had bought this apartment with her own money, had ended up being seen as an obstacle, as something to be moved out of the way. I needed to remember where all this began. It all started 4 months ago, when Elijah called to say he'd met someone special. I was at the salon with Charlotte next to me. We went together every week, usually on Thursday afternoons. It had been our ritual for years. We'd get our hair done, get our nails done, and catch up on our lives. Charlotte was 62, 2 years older than me, and a widow too. We'd met in a morning walking group at the park, and we'd been inseparable ever since. When the phone rang and I saw Elijah's name, I smiled. My son didn't call as often as he used to, but when he did, he always brightened my day. "Mom, I have to tell you something." His voice sounded different, excited, nervous. "Tell me, honey." "I met someone, an amazing woman. Her name is Rhiannon. We've been dating for 3 months, and I think she's the one." I stayed still under the hairdryer. Charlotte looked at me curiously. 3 months, and I knew nothing? 3 months, and he had never introduced her? I swallowed the little pang I felt in my chest and smiled, even though he couldn't see me. "That's wonderful news, Elijah. I'm so happy for you." "I want you to meet her. How about you both come over for dinner at my place on Saturday? You and your friend Charlotte, if she wants to come." I accepted. Of course I accepted. He was my son, my only son, the man I had raised alone after his father died of a heart attack when Elijah was barely 17. 13 years had passed since then. 13 years in which my life had revolved around making sure he was okay, that he finished college, that he got a good job, that he was happy. Saturday arrived, and I went to his condo with a bottle of wine and a dessert I'd bought at Elijah's favorite gourmet bakery. Charlotte came with me. She always said I needed witnesses for the important moments in my life. Rhiannon opened the door. She was younger than I expected. 32, I would learn later, almost 15 years younger than Elijah. Tall, thin, with long, dark hair, perfect makeup, and expensive clothes. She smiled widely when she saw us. "Ms. Montgomery, it's wonderful to finally meet you. Elijah talks about you all the time." She hugged me. It was a long, tight hug, as if we were old friends. She smelled of a sweet, strong perfume. We went inside. Elijah's condo looked different, more decorated. There were new throw pillows on the couch, framed pictures on the walls, and scented candles burning. The table was set with cloth napkins and tablecloths I didn't recognize. "Rhiannon has great taste in decorating," Elijah said, appearing from the kitchen, smiling proudly. We ate dinner. Rhiannon had cooked meatloaf, a salad, and baked potatoes. Everything was well presented, though a little bland for my taste, but I ate and smiled and said it was delicious because I saw how Elijah looked at her, waiting for my approval. During dinner, Rhiannon talked a lot about her job at an advertising agency, about her plans to open her own business someday, about how wonderful Elijah was, about how happy she was to have met him. She asked about my life too, where I worked, if I was retired, if I lived alone, if I had many friends. "It must be difficult to be alone in that big condo," she said at one point with a compassionate tone, "especially at your age." My age. I was 60, not 80. I worked part-time as an accounting consultant. I went to the gym 3 times a week. I had a group of friends I saw regularly. I drove my own car, paid my own bills, and traveled when I wanted. I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel incapable. But the way she said it, as if it were an obvious fact, made me uncomfortable. "I'm doing just fine," I replied simply. "I like my independence." Rhiannon smiled. Of course. But still, if you ever need help with anything, Elijah and I are here. We're family now." Family? They'd been dating for 3 months, and she was already talking about family. Charlotte glanced at me sideways. I knew that look. It was her way of saying, "Be careful." After dinner, Rhiannon insisted on preparing tea. I brought some special herbs. They're great for digestion and for relaxing. She returned from the kitchen with 4 steaming cups. The tea had a strange smell, something between mint and something else, bitter, that I couldn't identify. I drank a little out of politeness. Charlotte barely tasted hers. Elijah finished his whole cup, praising the flavor. Rhiannon watched us as we drank, smiling. Half an hour later, I started to feel dizzy. A mild dizziness at first, then stronger. The room seemed to be moving slightly. I told Elijah I should leave, that I was tired. Charlotte drove me home in my own car because I didn't feel capable of driving. "I don't like that woman," Charlotte said when we were in the elevator going up to my condo. "There's something off about her. And did you taste the flavor?" I had noticed it too, but I hadn't wanted to admit it. I hadn't wanted to be that mother-in-law, that woman who never accepts anyone because no one is good enough for her son. In the following weeks, Rhiannon started appearing more in my life. Calls to invite me out for coffee, WhatsApp messages asking how I was doing, surprise visits to the condo with Elijah. Always kind, always smiling, always with that tone of concern that seemed genuine but made me feel observed. "Are you eating well, Miss Montgomery? You look a little thin. Are you sleeping enough? You have dark circles. Isn't it too much for you to live alone on a 10th floor? What if something happens to you and no one finds out?" Each comment was like a drop of water. One alone means nothing. But when they accumulate, they start to bore a hole. Elijah changed, too. He started repeating Rhiannon's phrases. "Mom, are you sure you're okay? Rhiannon says you look tired." "Mom, wouldn't it be easier if you lived in a smaller place?" "Mom, you should think about the future, about what will happen when you can't take care of yourself anymore." I was 60 years old. I worked. I went out. I traveled. But suddenly, they were making me feel as if I were on the verge of incapacitation. 1 month later, Elijah called me with more news. They were getting married in 3 months. Rhiannon had already planned everything. A small, intimate wedding, just close family, and a few friends. I, of course, was expected to pay for part of the expenses. I was the groom's mother. It was my responsibility. I contributed $5,000, money I had saved for years, money I had set aside for emergencies or a special trip. But it was my son's wedding. How could I refuse? The wedding was beautiful. Rhiannon wore a stunning white dress that, according to Elijah, cost $3,000. There were flowers everywhere, live music, expensive food, everything very elegant. I smiled in the photos. I hugged my son. I welcomed Rhiannon into the family. But during the reception, I heard something that chilled me to the bone. I was in the restroom, touching up my makeup, when I heard voices on the other side of the door. It was Rhiannon talking to someone. A friend, I assumed. "I'm telling you, this marriage is the best investment I've ever made. Elijah is easy to manage, and the old lady has money. A condo worth $200,000, savings, a beach house, and the best part is, she doesn't have anyone else. Only Elijah. Everything is going to be ours eventually." The other voice laughed. "What if she doesn't want to?" "That's why I'm working on it. I've already got her half convinced she's too old to take care of her things. Give it a few more months and she'll be begging us to help her." They left the restroom. I stayed inside, clutching the sink, trying to breathe. It wasn't my imagination. I wasn't being paranoid. Rhiannon Thurman had planned everything from the start. That night at the beach house where I went after the wedding, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be a victim. I wasn't going to let them steal what I had built. I wasn't going to keep quiet while they treated me like an inconvenience that needed to be moved out of the way. I called Olivia Sterling, my attorney and friend, for years. I told her everything, every strange detail, every out-of-place comment, every moment I felt manipulated. "Aisha, you need to protect yourself," she told me. "And you need evidence, because if this goes legal, your word alone won't be enough. She'll say you're confused, that you're paranoid, that your age is affecting you." It was Olivia's idea to install the cameras. Small, invisible cameras with high-quality audio throughout my home, connected to an app on my phone, programmed to record everything and send automatic alerts if anyone entered without my permission. "If she tries anything, you'll have proof," Olivia said, "and that proof will sink her." I installed the cameras 3 weeks ago. I also changed the locks, but I left an old key hidden where I knew Rhiannon would find it. I wanted her to think she still had access. I wanted her to feel secure. And it worked. Because now, as I sat in the beach house looking at my phone, she was in my condo, stealing my things, confessing her plans, burying herself. 2 weeks after the wedding, while I was still processing what I'd heard in the restroom, Rhiannon started the next phase of her plan. She invited me to lunch at her condo. Well, now it was her and Elijah's condo. He had bought it 2 years ago with my help, a loan of $10,000 that he never paid back, but it didn't matter. He was my son, and I wanted to help him. I arrived with a potted plant as a housewarming gift. Rhiannon opened the door wearing an apron, as if she had been cooking all morning. The house smelled of home-cooked food. She hugged me with the same exaggerated enthusiasm as always. "Miss Montgomery, how lovely! Come in, come in!" "Elijah is at work, but I wanted us to have some time alone to get to know each other better. We're family now." I sat on the couch, the same couch I had helped Elijah buy. Rhiannon brought lemonade in tall glasses with ice and mint. As we drank, she asked me about my daily routine. "You still go to the gym 3 times a week? Isn't that too tiring?" "I enjoy it. It keeps me active." She nodded with that knowing, understanding expression. "That's admirable. But you have to be careful. At a certain age, your body doesn't respond the same way. My grandmother fell at the gym 2 years ago. She fractured her hip. She never walked properly again." I took another sip of lemonade. It tasted strange, too sweet, with a bitter note at the end. "And that condo is so big," Rhiannon continued. 10 floors high, so many rooms. Don't you feel lonely up there? Aren't you afraid something might happen and no one will find out?" "I have friends who live nearby. Charlotte comes over often." "Yes, but still, a woman your age living alone. Elijah worries about you a lot, you know. He always says he's anxious to think about something bad happening to you." My age again, as if 60 years old were synonymous with incapacity. We ate baked chicken with vegetables for lunch. The food was fine, though again, a little bland. Rhiannon insisted I eat more, serving me large portions. After lunch, she prepared that tea again, the same one from the first dinner, the same herbs with that strange smell. "It's wonderful for digestion and helps you sleep better. You mentioned you sometimes have insomnia." I had never mentioned that. I slept perfectly well, but she said it with such certainty that for a moment I doubted my own memory. I drank the tea out of politeness. This time, the bitter taste was stronger. I forced myself to finish it while Rhiannon watched me with that fixed smile. "Ms. Montgomery, I want to talk about something important." She leaned forward as if sharing a secret. "Elijah and I have been thinking. You have a lot of property, a lot of responsibilities. The condo, the beach house, the accounts, the taxes. Wouldn't it be easier if we helped you manage all that?" My heart beat faster. "I manage my affairs just fine." Of course. I'm not saying you can't, just that sometimes it's good to have help. Someone younger who understands technology, banks, all those modern things. We could make Elijah a co-owner, for example, just for security. So if anything happens to you, everything is in order. Co-owner. That word hit me like ice water. I don't think that will be necessary. Rhiannon maintained her smile, but something changed in her eyes. "Well, think about it. It's just a suggestion. We only want to take care of you." Half an hour later, I started to feel sick again. The same dizziness as the first time. Nausea. The room swayed slightly. I told her I should leave. Rhiannon insisted on calling a taxi, saying I wasn't in a condition to drive. She was right. I wasn't. In the taxi, on the way home, I opened my WhatsApp. I had messages from my gym friends, photos of Charlotte at the park, a video from my niece in Spain. Real people, real life, reminding me that I wasn't alone or useless, as Rhiannon wanted me to feel. In the following days, Rhiannon's calls and messages intensified. "Good morning, Ms. Montgomery." "Good afternoon. How did you sleep? What did you do today?" Every message was disguised as concern, but it felt like surveillance. Elijah also started asking strange questions. "Mom, did you pay the electric bill this month and the water? Are you sure?" As if I were suddenly incapable of remembering to pay my own bills I had paid for 40 years without a problem. One afternoon, I was in the living room with Charlotte when Rhiannon showed up unannounced. She rang the doorbell, came up without me giving permission, and arrived at my door with a grocery bag. "I brought you some things. Fruit, bread, milk. I was passing by and thought of you." Charlotte was sitting in my living room. She looked at Rhiannon with that expression I already knew. Distrust. "That's very kind of you," I said, taking the bag. I hadn't invited her in, but she entered anyway. "What a big condo." She walked through the living room, looking at everything, touching the furniture. "And those paintings are valuable. They were your husband's, right? Beautiful. It must be hard to keep all this clean. So many rooms, so many things. Haven't you thought about simplifying, selling some things, moving to something smaller, more manageable?" Charlotte stood up. "Aisha manages her home perfectly well." Rhiannon looked at her as if she had just noticed her. "Of course. I'm just saying that sometimes less is more, especially as one gets older." Getting older, as if I were on the verge of senility. After she left, Charlotte exploded. "That woman is a viper. Don't you see what she's doing? She's wearing you down little by little, making you doubt yourself, preparing the ground for something." "I know," I finally admitted. "I heard something at the wedding. She married Elijah for the money, for my property." Charlotte was silent for a moment. "So what are you going to do?" "I don't know yet, but I need to be smart. If I confront her now, she'll deny everything. She'll say I'm paranoid, that my age is getting to me, and Elijah will believe her." "She has him that controlled?" I nodded. "Ever since they got married, Elijah is a different person. He repeats everything she says. He looks at me differently, as if I were a burden." The next day, Rhiannon sent another message. "We need to talk about something important. Can you come to dinner tonight?" I went against my better judgment. I went because I still had that small hope that I was wrong, that Rhiannon really cared, that my son hadn't traded me for a woman who only saw dollar signs where she should see family. The dinner was tense. Elijah was quiet. Rhiannon talked non-stop. After dessert, she pulled out some papers. "Ms. Montgomery, we prepared something." She placed them on the table. "It's a simple power of attorney, nothing complicated. Just so Elijah can help you with your bank accounts, payments, and property. You just have to sign here." I looked at the papers. My name was written there with blank spaces for my signature. Legal words I barely understood. "I won't sign anything without my attorney reviewing it first." Rhiannon's face hardened for a fraction of a second. Then the smile returned. "Of course. It's smart to be careful, but this is just to make things easier for you, so you don't have to worry about anything." "I'm not worried. I manage my affairs just fine." "Mom," Elijah finally spoke. His voice sounded tired. "We're just trying to help you. Why are you making this so difficult?" Why was I making it difficult? As if taking care of my own things were an act of stubbornness and not common sense. I stood up. "I'm leaving." Rhiannon stood up too. "It's fine. Take the papers. Think about it calmly. But truly, Ms. Montgomery, this is for your own good. We only want to protect you." Protect you. That word haunted me all the way home because I knew that when people say they want to protect you, sometimes what they really want is to control you. The week after I refused to sign the papers, everything got worse. Elijah stopped answering my calls as often. When he did, his responses were short, cold. Rhiannon, on the other hand, called me more, always with that sweet, concerned voice that was already getting on my nerves. "Ms. Montgomery, Elijah is very sad. He says you're not treating him well, that you're ignoring him, that you're cold to her." I was at the park with my walking group, 5 women between 55 and 68, all widows or divorced, all independent. We met 3 times a week at 6 in the morning to walk 3 miles around the lake. Afterward, we drank coffee at the kiosk and talked about our lives. "I didn't reject anyone," I told Rhiannon, moving a little away from the group. "I just said I needed my attorney to review the papers. That's normal." "Yes, but Elijah felt like you don't trust him, like you think he's going to do something bad to you." "Rhiannon, they are my properties. I have the right to be careful." There was a silence. Then her voice changed slightly, colder. "Right. You have a point. Well, I hope your attorney tells you everything is in order. We only want the best for you, even if you don't see it that way." She hung up. I returned to my friends. Shirley Dixon, the oldest in the group, looked at me with concern. "Everything okay?" "My daughter-in-law." Shirley knew the story. They all knew it. I had told them everything. "That woman needs clear boundaries set for her." "I know, but it's difficult. Elijah is completely on her side." Tasha Price, who was 61 and had been a nurse for 30 years, leaned closer. "Aisha, are you still feeling dizzy after visiting them?" "Yes, every time I drink that tea she makes." "Don't take anything else she gives you. Nothing. No food, no drink, nothing." "Do you really think she could be putting something in it?" Tasha looked at me seriously. "I've seen cases. People who use herbs, medications, anything to make a person seem confused, sick, incapable. Then they say the person needs help, that they can't take care of themselves, and they end up taking control of everything." Her words chilled me, because it made sense. Everything made sense. That afternoon, I went to see Olivia Sterling. Her office was downtown, in an older but well-maintained building. Olivia was 65, with completely white hair. She wore short, thick glasses and a brilliant legal mind. She had been my attorney since my husband passed away. I showed her the papers Rhiannon had wanted me to sign. Olivia read them in silence. Her expression grew increasingly serious. Finally, she put them on her desk and looked at me. "Aisha, if you had signed this, you would essentially be giving Elijah complete power over all your accounts, properties, and financial decisions. They could sell your condo without your consent. They could empty your bank accounts. They could do whatever they wanted." I felt like I couldn't breathe. But Rhiannon said it was just to help me, to help themselves. "This isn't a document of help. It's a document of transfer of power, and it's drafted in a very clever way. Any judge who sees it will think you are not in a condition to handle your own affairs." "What do I do?" Olivia leaned back in her chair. "First, never sign anything without consulting me. Second, we need to protect you legally. I'm going to draft documents that clearly state you are fully competent, that you make your own decisions, and that no one has authority over your assets except you. Third, and this is important, you need evidence of what's happening. What kind of evidence? Recordings, messages, anything that proves they are manipulating you. Because if this goes to court, and I suspect it might, your word alone won't be enough. They will say you're confused, that your age is affecting you. They will paint you as a senile old woman who doesn't know what she's doing." That word, old, as if being 60 automatically made me invalid. "What if I install cameras in my condo?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Cameras to record if they try to enter without my permission or if they say anything incriminating when they're there." "It's your property. You have every right to install security cameras, and yes, they could be useful as evidence." I left her office with a plan. That same afternoon, I searched online. I found small, wireless cameras with high-definition audio. They connected to an app on my phone and automatically recorded when they detected motion. They saved everything to the cloud. They cost $800 for a package of 6 cameras. I bought them without thinking twice. They arrived 3 days later. I spent an entire afternoon installing them. In the living room, hidden behind a picture frame. In the kitchen, above the refrigerator. In my bedroom, on the bookshelf. In the dining room, in a decorative plant. In the study, behind some books. At the entrance, camouflaged in the smoke detector, I downloaded the app, configured the notifications, and tested them. Everything was perfect. I also changed the locks on my condo, but in a clever way. I hired a locksmith and asked him to leave the old, inoperable lock installed and put a new one right underneath it. From the outside, it looked like there was only one lock, but the old key that Rhiannon had probably copied no longer worked at all. And then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, I was at the supermarket when my phone vibrated. A notification from the cameras. Motion detected in the apartment. I opened the app. My heart pounded. It was Rhiannon. She was in my living room, alone, walking slowly, looking at everything. She opened the drawers of my dresser, checked the papers inside. She took photos with her phone of some documents. Then she went to my bedroom, opened my closet, checked my jewelry box, took a ring my husband had given me, and put it in her purse. She stayed in my condo for almost 20 minutes, checking, photographing, touching my things as if they were already hers. When she left, I sat down in the middle of the supermarket aisle, my shopping cart forgotten beside me, looking at my phone. My hands were shaking. It wasn't paranoia. It was real. Rhiannon was planning to rob me. That night, Elijah called me. "Mom, Rhiannon told me you're not treating her well, that you're ignoring her, that you're cold to her." "Elijah, how did Rhiannon get into my condo today?" Silence. "What?" "She was in my condo this afternoon. Did you give her a key?" She said she needed to pick up something you had lent her." "I didn't lend her anything, and she was going through my drawers, my documents, my personal things. Does that seem normal to you?" "Mom, don't start with your theories. Rhiannon wants to help you, and you just push her away. You're being paranoid." Paranoid. That word again. "Elijah, I have cameras. I recorded her going through my things, taking pictures of my documents, stealing a ring." Another, longer silence. "Cameras? Since when do you have cameras?" "Since I started suspecting that something wasn't right." "This is ridiculous. You're spying on your own family. Mom, I think you need help. Professional help. Maybe talk to a doctor about this." A doctor. They wanted to declare me incapable, mentally ill, convenient. "I don't need a doctor, Elijah. I need you to understand that your wife is not who she says she is." "I'm not going to listen to this. Rhiannon is my wife, and if you can't accept her, then maybe we need to take some distance." He hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, in my empty condo, feeling everything crumble. My only son had just chosen a woman he'd known for months over the mother who had raised him alone for 13 years, but I wasn't going to give up. I called Olivia, told her everything, and sent her the camera videos. "This is perfect," she said. "We have evidence of trespassing, and if she stole something, it's also theft. Aisha, you've got her." And now what? Now we wait. Let her think she's in control. Let her keep moving. The more she does, the more evidence we have. It was the hardest advice to follow because every fiber of my being wanted to confront her, scream at her, show her that I knew, but I kept quiet and waited. The final humiliation came at the family lunch Rhiannon organized 2 weeks later. She called me on a Tuesday morning. Her voice sounded cheerful, as if nothing had happened, as if I didn't know she had entered my condo without permission, stolen my ring, and photographed my documents. "Ms. Montgomery, I want us all to come together this Sunday, a family lunch. I'm inviting my mother and my brother too. It'll be nice for you to meet them." I almost said no, but then I remembered Olivia's words. Let her think she's in control. The more she does, the more evidence we have. "All right, I'll be there." "Perfect. And Ms. Montgomery, please bring the beach house documents. Elijah and I want to help you organize the tax paperwork. You know, those things get complicated at a certain age." At a certain age. Every time she said it, it was like a small punch. I arrived at their condo at noon on Sunday. I rang the doorbell and Rhiannon opened it. She was wearing an elegant dress, perfect makeup, and a radiant smile. "Ms. Montgomery, it's wonderful to see you." "Come in, come in." In the living room were Elijah, an older woman I assumed was Rhiannon's mother, and a young man in his 30s who must have been her brother. There was also another couple I didn't know. "They're Ramon and Olivia Ortega, my aunt and uncle," Rhiannon said. "Not Olivia Sterling, my attorney, obviously another Olivia." I sat on the couch. Rhiannon's mother looked me up and down with an expression I couldn't decipher. The brother didn't even greet me. He just nodded as he checked his phone. Rhiannon brought wine. I politely declined and asked for water. I wasn't going to drink anything she gave me. I had learned that lesson. During lunch, Rhiannon dominated the conversation. She talked about her business plans, about how well Elijah was doing at work, about how happy they were together. I ate in silence, responding only when asked something directly. After dessert, Rhiannon changed her tone. "Well, now that we're all family, there's something important we want to share." She looked at Elijah. He looked uncomfortable, but nodded. "We've been worried about Ms. Montgomery." All eyes turned to me. Lately, we've noticed she's been very forgetful. Rhiannon continued with that soft, concerned voice. She forgets things. She gets confused about dates. The other day she called me thinking it was Thursday when it was Sunday. That was a lie. It had never happened. And she's been very paranoid, she added. She installed cameras in her condo because she thinks someone is spying on her. She accuses us of things we haven't done. Rhiannon's mother made a sound of pity. Poor thing. It's normal at that age. My mother was the same before we had to place her in assisted living. I felt the heat rise to my face. I am not confused, and I installed the cameras because someone entered my condo without my permission. Rhiannon looked at me with that expression of infinite patience, the way you look at a child who is talking nonsense. Ms. Montgomery, I went in because you had told me I could stop by to pick up that book you lent me. Don't you remember? I never lent you a book, Rhiannon. Rhiannon looked at the others. This is what I'm talking about. She doesn't remember things. Elijah intervened. Mom, we're worried. Seriously, living alone in that big condo isn't safe for you anymore. You've had falls. I've never fallen. You fell in the bathroom 2 weeks ago. You told me on the phone. That wasn't true either. I had never said that. Rhiannon's brother spoke for the first time. Look, ma'am, I know it's hard to accept, but my grandmother was the same. She started by denying anything was wrong and ended up lost on the street, not remembering her address. I stood up. I am not going to stay here and listen to this. Rhiannon stood up too. Ms. Montgomery, please sit down. This is important. We love you. We want to help you, and that's why we've prepared a solution. She pulled some papers out of a folder that was on the table. Papers different from the first time. We spoke with an attorney. This is a voluntary guardianship. Basically, you agree that you need help managing your affairs and authorize us to do it for you. It's the best way. That way, you can continue living peacefully without worrying about anything. I looked at the papers. Then I looked at Elijah. My son, the man I had raised, wouldn't look me in the eye. I will not sign that. Rhiannon's mask fell for a second. I saw pure rage in her eyes, but she quickly recomposed herself. Ms. Montgomery, if you don't sign voluntarily, we'll have to initiate a legal process. We have witnesses. She pointed to everyone in the room. Everyone here can confirm that you are not well, that you are confused, that you need help. A judge will order a psychological evaluation. And when that evaluation proves you can't take care of yourself, they'll assign you a guardian anyway. Better that it's family, don't you think? It was a trap, a perfect trap. If I signed, I lost everything. If I didn't sign, they would legally force me. And they had witnesses willing to lie for her. I felt something break inside me. It wasn't fear. It wasn't sadness. It was a cold, absolute clarity. I need to use the restroom. Rhiannon smiled. Of course, it's the first door on the left. I went to the restroom, closed the door, and took out my phone. I texted Olivia, my real attorney. They are trying to force me to sign guardianship. They have false witnesses. I need help. Her response came in seconds. Don't sign anything. Get out of there. I am initiating legal action immediately. We have the recordings. This is coercion. I took a deep breath, washed my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a 60-year-old woman who was tired. Yes, scared too, but not defeated. I left the restroom. Everyone was waiting for me in silence. I will not sign, I said in a clear voice, and if you try to force me, my attorney will take legal action against all of you for coercion and fraud. Rhiannon stood up. Fraud! How dare you! I know exactly what you're doing. I know you entered my condo without permission. I know you stole my ring. I know you've been making things up about me to make it look like I'm incapacitated. And I have proof of everything. The room fell into absolute silence. Elijah finally looked at me. Mom, what are you talking about? Ask your wife about the gold ring she took from my jewelry box 2 weeks ago. Ask her about the photos she took of my documents. Ask her about her phone conversations, where she talks about my condo as if it were already hers. Rhiannon gave a nervous laugh. This is ridiculous. Elijah, do you see what I'm talking about? She's delusional. I have recordings, I said simply. The color drained from her face. Cameras with audio throughout my condo, recording every time someone enters, saving everything to the cloud, and my attorney has copies of everything. I turned to Elijah. Son, I love you, but your wife married you for money, for my property, and she's been trying to make me seem incapable so she can take everything from me. That's not true, Rhiannon's voice was sharp. Elijah, don't believe her. She's sick. She's seeing things that don't exist. But Elijah was looking at me differently now, as if he were finally seeing something that had been there all along. I grabbed my purse. I'm leaving, and the next time someone enters my condo without my permission, I'm calling the police. I walked out. No one stopped me. In the elevator going down, my hands were shaking. I had broken the silence. I had shown my cards, but I didn't have another choice. Outside in my car, I sat for a long time. The phone rang. It was Charlotte. How was lunch? Horrible. I'll tell you later. Are you okay? No, I said. I'm not okay, but I will be. I will be. I drove to the beach house. I needed to be far away. I needed to think. I needed to prepare for what was coming, because now Rhiannon knew that I knew, and desperate people do desperate things. That same night from the beach house, I called Olivia. I need legal protection now. We met the next day. She came all the way to the coast with a folder full of documents. We sat on the deck with the sound of the waves in the background while she explained every step we were going to take. First, we're going to get a complete psychological evaluation from a certified professional to prove you are in full use of your mental faculties. No dementia, no confusion, nothing that justifies a guardianship. I nodded. How long will that take? A week, maybe 2? It's several sessions, cognitive tests, interviews, but it's fundamental because when Rhiannon tries to say you're incapacitated, we'll have recent medical evidence to contradict it. What else? We are going to update your will and put in very specific clauses that no property can be sold or transferred without your express authorization before a notary, and that any change requires the approval of 2 independent witnesses. Basically, we're going to shield everything. I took a mental note of everything. You also need to change your bank accounts, open new accounts at a different bank, and transfer your money there. Accounts to which only you have access. Don't even tell Elijah they exist. And the beach house, that's only in your name, right? Yes, I bought it 5 years ago with my work money. Good. We're going to make sure that's very clear in all the records. And we're going to install cameras here too. If Rhiannon tries to get in, we'll know. I spent the next few days executing the plan. I went to a forensic psychologist Olivia recommended, Dr. Kenneth Holloway, a man in his 50s with 30 years of experience evaluating mental capacity. He gave me memory tests, reasoning tests, and temporal and spatial orientation tests. He asked me about my life, my routines, my financial decisions. It was exhausting, but when we finished, he gave me his verdict. Ms. Montgomery, you are perfectly competent. There are no signs of cognitive decline, no confusion, nothing that justifies someone else making decisions for you. I will write a full report, and if necessary, I will testify before a judge. I left his office with a feeling of relief mixed with anger. Relief because I had confirmation. Anger because I needed that confirmation in the first place, because my own family had made me doubt my sanity. I opened new bank accounts at a different bank in another part of the city and transferred my savings, $3,000 that I had accumulated over the years, money that represented my security, my independence, my future. I updated my will. The new clauses were clear. If anything happened to me, the condo and the beach house would be sold, and the money would go to a foundation for older women. Nothing for Elijah while he was married to Rhiannon. Olivia would be the executor. It's drastic, I admitted as I signed, but I can't take any chances. It's smart, Olivia said, and you can change it later if things get better. But for now, you're protected. I installed more cameras at the beach house. I reinforced the locks. I left clear instructions with the neighbors that no one should enter without my direct authorization. During those days, Elijah called me several times. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready. I needed to have everything in order first. Rhiannon also called. She left voice messages. At first, she sounded concerned, sweet. "Ms. Montgomery, please answer. We're worried." What happened on Sunday was a misunderstanding. Then the messages changed tone. "You can't hide forever. We need to resolve this." And finally, thinly veiled threats. "If you don't talk to us, we'll have to take legal measures for your own good." I saved every message, every recording. It was all evidence. A week later, I returned to the city. I had a meeting with Olivia at her office. When I arrived, she had a serious expression. "Aisha, Rhiannon and Elijah have initiated a legal process. They are requesting an evaluation of your mental capacity. They allege that you pose a danger to yourself." I felt a hollow in my stomach. They can do that? They can try, but we are prepared. We have your psychological evaluation. We have the camera recordings. We have evidence that Rhiannon entered your condo without permission, stole items, and has been slandering you. When we present all that to the judge, their case is going to fall apart. When is the hearing? In 2 weeks. But before that, I have something else to show you. She took out her laptop and opened a video file. It was a recording from my condo cameras from 3 days ago when I was at the beach. Rhiannon appeared on the screen, but this time she wasn't alone. She was with a tall, thin man carrying a briefcase. "Who is that?" I asked. "Keep watching." In the video, Rhiannon and the man walked through my condo. She showed him every room. He took notes, took pictures, as if he were appraising the property. "He's a real estate agent," Olivia said. "Rhiannon is trying to sell your condo." My condo, the place where I had lived for 10 years, the home I had built after my husband died. She was selling it behind my back. "But she can't do that without my signature." "She can't do it legally, but listen to what they're saying." Olivia turned up the volume. Rhiannon's voice was clear. "The condo is worth around $200,000, maybe more. It's in an excellent location. My mother-in-law will be in an assisted living facility soon, so we need to sell it fast." The agent asked, "Do you have the paperwork in order yet?" "We're almost there. We're in the process of getting guardianship. Once we have that, we can proceed with the sale immediately." "And she's okay with this?" Rhiannon laughed. "She's not in a condition to be okay or not. That's why we need the guardianship. But don't worry, everything will be legal." The video ended. I kept staring at the black screen. Assisted living. They wanted to put me in a nursing home, sell my condo, keep my money, erase me from my own life. "There's more," Olivia said. She opened another file. This time it was an audio recording, a phone call, Rhiannon's voice talking to someone. "I already found the perfect nursing home. It costs $3,000 a month. With the money from the condo sale, we can pay for years. And in the meantime, we keep the beach house. We can use it or sell it too. That's another $100,000 easily." The other voice, which sounded like her brother's, asked, "What if she resists?" "She can't resist. Once we have guardianship, she has no voice or vote. And if she makes a scene, it just confirms she's crazy. It's perfect." I closed my eyes. The pain in my chest was physical, real, as if something had broken inside. "When did you record this?" I asked. 2 days ago. The cameras picked up her call when she was in your living room, calmly talking about how they were going to dispose of your life. I opened my eyes. The sadness was turning into something else, something cold and hard. "What else did the cameras capture?" Olivia looked at me seriously. "There's something else, and it's serious." She opened a third video, dated 1 week ago. Rhiannon was in my kitchen, alone. She opened the cabinet where I kept the spices. She took a small vial out of her purse, emptied it into my sugar container, then mixed it with a spoon, put the empty vial back in her purse, and left. What was that? My voice sounded strange, distant. "We don't know, but we need to find out. Do you still have that sugar?" "I haven't been in the condo for a week." "Good. We're going now. We're going to take a sample and have it analyzed in a lab." We went immediately. We entered my condo with gloves. Olivia took out a sealed bag. She opened the sugar container, took a sample with a clean spoon, and sealed it. "I'll take this to a private lab. We'll know what it is in 48 hours. Those 48 hours were the longest of my life. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I only thought about that vial, about Rhiannon mixing something into my sugar, about all the times I had had coffee with sugar in the last few weeks, about the dizziness, the confusion. When Olivia called with the results, I already knew they would be bad. It was a sedative, high-dose benzodiazepines, enough to cause disorientation, dizziness, and memory problems. If you had kept consuming it, it would have eventually caused symptoms that would look like dementia. I sat down slowly. She was poisoning me. Yes, and we have the video evidence. Aisha, this is no longer just financial manipulation. This is attempted physical harm. This is criminal. 2 days after discovering the poison, I was at the beach house when the alarm sounded. 5 in the morning. My phone vibrated against the table. "Mr. Evans, your daughter-in-law is here with some men. She says she's the new owner and she's going to take the furniture." I opened the camera app. There she was, Rhiannon Thurman, standing in the lobby of my building with 3 large men, moving company uniforms, and a truck parked outside. "Don't stop her, Mr. Evans. Let her in. She's going to find a surprise." I hung up and immediately called Olivia. She answered on the second ring, her voice alert. "Aisha, what happened?" "Rhiannon is at my building. She's coming to take my furniture with men and a truck." "Perfect. Don't do anything. The cameras are recording everything. I'm calling the police right now. Give them your condo address. Trespassing in progress. And if they take anything before they get there, even better charges. Just stay calm. This is exactly what we needed." She hung up. I sat in bed, my heart pounding, looking at my phone screen. I watched Rhiannon talk to Mr. Evans, how he, following my instructions, asked her to sign the log with her full name and ID, how she did it without hesitation, convinced she had every right. I saw them enter the elevator, go up floor by floor, reach the 10th, walk down the hall to my door. Rhiannon took a key from her purse, the old key that no longer worked. She put it in the lock, twisted it. It didn't work. She tried again. Nothing. I saw her curse. One of the men asked something. She checked her purse. She took out another key, probably a copy she had made. It didn't work either. "Wait here," she told the men. She took out her phone and called someone. By the movement of her lips, I could read Elijah's name. She waited. The call went to voicemail. She called again. Same thing. I watched her take a deep breath, put the phone away, and look at the door with determination. Then she bent down and pulled something else out of her purse, a thin card. She tried to force the lock. "This is illegal," one of the men said. "Ma'am, if you don't have a key, we can't go in." "I have the right to enter. This is my property now. My mother-in-law signed it over to me. I have the papers to prove it." Rhiannon pulled a crumpled paper from her purse. She showed it quickly. "Here it is, power of attorney, all legal." The man looked at it more closely. "This isn't signed by the owner." "Yes, it is. Her signature is right there." "Ma'am, I've worked in moving for 15 years. I know how to spot fake signatures. This isn't real." Rhiannon put the paper away abruptly. "Look, I'll pay you double if you help me get in. I just need to get some things out quickly." The men looked at each other. One of them shook his head. "No, this isn't right. We're leaving." He walked toward the elevator. Rhiannon and the 2 remaining men began to force the door. One of them took out a tool. He started working on the lock. My phone vibrated. A message from Olivia. "Police on the way. ETA 5 minutes. 5 minutes." In 5 minutes, everything would change. The door gave way. It opened. Rhiannon entered first, turned on the lights, and the 2 men followed her. "That couch first," Rhiannon ordered, pointing to my leather sofa that I had bought 3 years ago. "And that table, those vases, everything that's worth something." The men started working. They lifted the couch and moved it toward the door. The cameras captured every movement from 3 different angles. Rhiannon went to my bedroom. I watched her open my closet, check my jewelry box again. She took out more things. Necklaces, bracelets, earrings, all gifts from my late husband, all of sentimental more than monetary value, but to her, they were just objects to sell. She returned to the living room, took out her phone, and made another call. "Yes, I'm inside now. I had to force the door, but it's done. We're taking things out now." A pause. She was listening to someone. "No, she's not here. She's at the beach house. By the time she finds out, we'll have everything sold." Another pause, then a laugh. "I told you this was going to work. The old lady is too dumb to protect herself well." The dumb old lady continued speaking. "With what's here, we can easily get 20,000, and that's not counting what comes next. Once the judge approves the guardianship, we'll have access to everything. The condo, the beach house, the bank accounts, everything." The person on the other end said something. Rhiannon laughed again. "What is she going to do? Call the police? She has no proof of anything, and if she does, it will only confirm she's crazy. Paranoid, exactly what we need for the incapacity case." A long pause. Then her voice changed. It became colder. "Look, I already tried the tea, but she stopped drinking it. And then I tried the sugar. I put enough sedative in there to keep her confused for weeks. But that didn't work either because she practically hasn't been in the condo. So we have to do this by force. Take what we can now and then fight for the rest." My hand clenched the phone. She was confessing everything. Poisoning, theft, conspiracy, and the cameras were recording every word. One of the men appeared at the entrance. "Ma'am, this is taking too long. Someone might call the police." "Relax. No one is going to call. Just get the rest out and we'll leave." But then I heard something else. Sirens, distant at first, then closer. The cameras didn't have external audio, but I could see Rhiannon tense up, go to the window, look down, and her face went pale. "No, no, no!" She ran toward the men. "Leave everything! Let's go now!" But it was too late. The hallway cameras showed the exact moment the elevator doors opened, and 4 uniformed police officers, hands on their weapons, stepped out and approached my open door. "Police! Nobody move!" I watched Rhiannon try to run to the other exit, how one of the officers stopped her, pushed her against the wall, and put her in handcuffs. "Let me go! You don't understand! I have a right to be here! This condo is mine!" "Ma'am, you're under arrest for trespassing." "No, no! Call my husband, he'll explain. Her mother gave me permission." The owner of the apartment, Ms. Aisha Montgomery, filed a report. "We have an arrest warrant." The 2 men were also handcuffed. One of them yelled that he only worked for the moving company, that he didn't know anything. The other was silent, his head bowed. I watched them take Rhiannon out of my condo as she yelled, struggled, and insisted on her innocence. As the neighbors came out of their apartments, watching, whispering, my phone rang. "Olivia, you saw everything. The recordings are already being sent to the district attorney's office. We don't just have trespassing, we have attempted theft, forgery, and most importantly, we have her confession about the poisoning. Aisha, this is a solid criminal case." I was silent for a moment, processing. After months of manipulation, of feeling invisible, of doubting myself, justice had finally arrived. And now what? Now Rhiannon will spend the night at the police station. Tomorrow she has a bail hearing. We are going to present all the evidence, the recordings, the lab analysis of the sugar, everything. The DA is going to ask that bail be denied because she represents a danger. And Elijah? Olivia sighed. That's the hard part. Elijah doesn't appear in any of the recordings doing anything illegal. Rhiannon acted alone. We can prove that she planned everything, that she entered without permission, that she poisoned the sugar. But Elijah, we don't have proof that he knew. Maybe he had to know, but legally we need proof, and for now, we don't have it. I hung up. I sat on the bed, looking at the sunrise through the window. The sky was painted orange and pink. The sea was calm. My phone vibrated again. A message from Elijah. "Mom, please, I need to talk to you. Rhiannon is arrested. I don't understand what's happening. Please call me." I stared at the message for a long time. My son, the man I had raised, the man who had chosen a criminal over his own mother. I didn't answer. Not yet. The bail hearing was 3 days later. Olivia insisted I be present. They need to see you. They need to see that you're not a confused old woman, as Rhiannon wants them to believe. They need to see a strong, coherent woman who knows exactly what was done to her. I dressed carefully that morning. A gray pantsuit, a white blouse, closed-toe shoes. Nothing ostentatious, just professional, dignified. Charlotte came with me. She sat by my side in the courtroom, squeezing my hand. When they brought Rhiannon in, I barely recognized her. No makeup, messy hair, in an orange jail uniform. She looked small, vulnerable. But when her eyes met mine, I saw the same coldness as always. Elijah was there too, in the back row. He looked destroyed. Red eyes, wrinkled clothes, as if he hadn't slept in days. He looked at me with a pleading expression. I looked away. The judge entered, a woman in her 50s, with a serious expression. She reviewed the documents in silence. Then she spoke. Ms. Rhiannon Thurman is accused of trespassing, attempted theft, forgery, and attempted poisoning. How do you plead? Rhiannon's lawyer, a young man in a cheap suit, stood up. Not guilty, Your Honor. My client had reason to be in that condo. Her mother-in-law suffers from dementia and had given her verbal permission. The judge looked at him skeptically. Do you have proof of that verbal permission? Not at this moment, but then it is not relevant. The judge turned to the prosecutor. Does the prosecution have evidence? The prosecutor, an older man with years of experience, stood up. Yes, Your Honor. We have video and audio recordings of the accused entering the apartment of Miss Aisha Montgomery without authorization. We have recordings of the accused confessing to having adulterated food with sedatives. We have laboratory analysis confirming the presence of benzodiazepines in the victim's sugar, and we have witnesses who confirm the accused forced entry with the help of third parties. Rhiannon leaned toward her lawyer, whispering furiously. He shook his head. Your Honor, the prosecutor continued, Ms. Thurman represents a clear danger to the victim. For months she has been trying to make her seem mentally incapacitated to take her property. She reached the point of poisoning her. If bail is granted, there is a risk that she will try to contact the victim or destroy additional evidence. The judge looked at Rhiannon. Anything to add, Ms. Thurman? Rhiannon stood up. Her voice sounded shaky. Your Honor, this is a horrible misunderstanding. I love my mother-in-law. Everything I did was to help her. She's confused. She doesn't understand what she's saying. The recordings are quite clear, the judge said dryly. Those recordings are taken out of context. I was joking on the phone. I never poisoned anything. The lab is wrong. The judge reviewed more papers. It says here that you also initiated a legal process to obtain guardianship over Ms. Montgomery, alleging mental incapacity. Is that correct? Yes, because I was worried about her, because I love her. But Ms. Montgomery voluntarily underwent a full psychological evaluation with Dr. Kenneth Holloway, who determined she is in full use of her mental faculties, with no signs of dementia, no signs of confusion. How do you explain that? Rhiannon stammered. The doctor must be wrong, or she misled him. My mother-in-law is very manipulative when she wants to be. Hearing that, after everything, calling me manipulative, when she was the one who had planned to rob me, poison me, and lock me away in a nursing home. The judge closed the folder. I have heard enough. Bail is denied. Ms. Thurman will remain detained pending trial. Given the circumstances and the severity of the charges, especially the attempted poisoning, I consider that she represents a danger to the victim and to society. Rhiannon screamed, No! This isn't fair! Elijah, do something! Elijah stood up. Your Honor, please, my wife wouldn't do this. There has to be a mistake. The judge looked at him. You are the victim's son. Yes. Were you aware of your wife's actions? Elijah hesitated. That hesitation condemned him. She told me my mother needed help, that she was confused. I only wanted to protect her. Protect her by forging documents and trying to steal her property? No, I never. The prosecutor will determine your level of participation in this. For now, I suggest you hire a good attorney. They took Rhiannon away, screaming, crying, blaming. First, she blamed me, then Elijah, then the system. She never blamed herself. We left the courtroom. In the hallway, Elijah caught up to me. "Mom, wait, please." I stopped. I turned around. I really looked at him for the first time in weeks. "Did you know?" I asked simply. "Know what?" "About the poison? About the plans to sell my condo? About the nursing home? Did you know?" Elijah shook his head, but his eyes wouldn't look directly at mine. "She told me you were unwell, that you needed help. I believed her." "You believed her over me? Your wife of months over your mother who raised you alone for 13 years? I didn't know it would go this far. You have to believe me." "You didn't know, Elijah? How many times did I tell you something was wrong? How many times did I tell you I felt sick after visiting them? How many times did I try to tell you Rhiannon wasn't who she said she was? And every time you called me paranoid. You told me I was overreacting. You made me doubt my own reality." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry." "You're sorry?" The rage I had been suppressing for months finally came out. "I almost ended up in a nursing home, Elijah. Your wife poisoned me. She made me feel crazy. She planned to steal everything I own, and you helped her. Maybe not directly, but your silence, your denial, your decision to believe her and not me, that was helping her too. Mom, please, she's my wife. I have to support her." Those words landed like a final blow. "Then support her. Visit her in jail. Pay for her attorney. Stay by her side while she faces criminal charges. But don't ask me to understand. Don't ask me to forgive, because I also had to make a choice, and I chose to protect myself. I chose to believe in myself when no one else would." "So what? I'm not your son anymore?" "You will always be my son. But that doesn't mean I have to accept how you treated me. That doesn't mean everything goes back to how it was, because it can't be. Not after this." Charlotte took my arm. "Aisha, let's go." I looked at Elijah one last time. I saw the boy he had been, the young man I had raised, the man he had become, and I realized I had failed at some point, not in raising him, not in loving him, but in teaching him that love doesn't mean sacrificing your dignity, that family cannot ask you to annihilate yourself. "If you ever understand what you did," I told him, "if you ever truly grasp the damage you caused, then we can talk. But until that day, I need distance." I turned and walked away. In the car, Charlotte drove in silence for a while, then spoke. "You did the right thing. It doesn't feel like the right thing. It never feels that way at first, but in time, you'll see it was necessary." That night, alone at the beach house, I sat on the deck looking at the ocean. My phone rang. A message from Olivia. "The DA is proceeding with all charges against Rhiannon. The trial will be in 3 months. Your testimony will be critical. Are you prepared?" I looked at the message. 3 months. 3 months of waiting, of remembering, of reliving everything. But also 3 months of healing, of rebuilding, of learning to be myself again. I replied, "I'm prepared." And I was, because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. I had clarity, I had strength, and I had something Rhiannon could never take from me. I had my truth. The trial arrived 3 months later. During that time, I lived peacefully at the beach house. Charlotte visited every weekend. My friends from the walking group called often, sending messages of support, photos of their lives. Shirley sent me a video of her granddaughter dancing. Tasha shared healthy recipes, small gestures that reminded me I wasn't alone. I went back to the gym. I resumed my yoga classes. I cut my hair shorter, a change I had wanted to make for a long time but never dared to. I took selfies with Charlotte at the salon and uploaded them to my WhatsApp. I felt alive again, free. Elijah tried to call me several times during those months. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be, and I had to accept that possibility. The day of the trial, I arrived early. I wore a light blue dress, simple but elegant. Olivia was waiting for me at the courthouse entrance. "Ready?" she asked. "Ready." The room was full, people I didn't know, reporters. Apparently, the case had drawn attention. A story about an older woman defending herself from a manipulative daughter-in-law resonated with many. Rhiannon entered with her attorney. She looked different, thinner, her hair shorter, but her eyes were still the same, cold, calculating. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Evidence upon evidence was presented. The camera recordings were played in the courtroom. I watched the jurors react when they heard Rhiannon confessing to the poisoning. I saw their faces turn to disgust when they watched her going through my drawers, stealing my things, planning my confinement. The lab analysis of the sugar was presented. The doctor who analyzed it testified that the amounts of benzodiazepines found were enough to cause severe confusion, short-term memory loss, and disorientation, symptoms that could easily be mistaken for dementia. Dr. Kenneth Holloway, the forensic psychologist, testified about my evaluation. He explained in detail that I was completely competent, with no signs of cognitive decline, that I was an intelligent and articulate woman with full control of her mental faculties. Mr. Evans, the building superintendent, testified about the morning Rhiannon arrived with the men. He confirmed that she had claimed to be the new owner, that she had tried to take my belongings. The movers who accompanied her also testified. One of them, the one who refused to participate, explained that Rhiannon had offered them $3,000 to help her force entry, that she had shown them fake documents. And finally, it was my turn. I took the stand. I swore to tell the truth. I sat in front of a room full of strangers who now knew the most intimate details of my life. The prosecutor asked me questions about my relationship with Elijah, how I met Rhiannon, the changes I noticed, the dizziness, the manipulation, the fear. I spoke in a clear, firm voice, without crying, without dramatizing, just the truth. "She made me doubt myself," I said at one point. "She made me feel like I was losing my mind, that my age had made me incapable. And the worst part is, I almost believed her. I almost accepted that maybe I was confused, that maybe I did need someone else to make decisions for me. But then I realized something important." "What did you realize?" the prosecutor asked. "I realized that being 60 years old doesn't make me incompetent, that being a widow doesn't make me vulnerable, that living alone doesn't make me weak. I am a woman who worked her whole life, who raised a son alone, who bought her own property with her own money, and no one has the right to take that from me. No one has the right to make me feel less than I am." I saw several women in the audience nod. I saw tears in some eyes. Rhiannon's attorney tried to discredit me during cross-examination. He asked about my age, about whether I took medication, about whether I sometimes forgot things, but every question had a clear answer. I didn't take medication, I didn't forget things, and my age was not a disease. After 2 weeks, the jury deliberated. 3 hours later, they returned with the verdict, guilty on all counts. Rhiannon screamed. Her attorney tried to calm her, but there was nothing to be done. The evidence had been overwhelming. Sentencing came 1 week later, 5 years in prison for trespassing, theft, and forgery, and 3 additional years for attempted poisoning, 8 years in total. When the judge delivered the verdict, I felt something strange. It wasn't joy. It wasn't satisfaction. It was closure. It was confirmation that my truth mattered, that defending my dignity had been worth it. I left the courthouse with Olivia and Charlotte. Outside, there were cameras and reporters. Several asked me for statements. Olivia spoke for me, saying we were satisfied with the result, that we hoped this case would serve as an example. But one reporter came directly up to me. "Ms. Montgomery, do you have anything to say to other women who might be going through similar situations?" I looked into the camera. I thought of all the women who had written to me during the trial, older women who felt invisible in their own families, who doubted themselves, who accepted mistreatment because they believed it was their duty as mothers, as grandmothers. "Yes," I said, "if something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. No matter how old you are, no matter if people tell you you're overreacting or that you're paranoid, you know your life, you know your mind, And you have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to say no. You have the right to set boundaries, even with family, especially with family. That night, at the beach house, I sat on the deck with a glass of wine. The sea was calm. The sky was full of stars. My phone vibrated. A message from Elijah. "Mom, I saw the verdict. You're right about everything. I don't know how to ask for your forgiveness. I don't know if you ever can forgive me, but I need you to know that I regret everything, not listening to you, choosing wrong, making you suffer. I'm filing for divorce. I don't want anything to do with someone capable of hurting you. I love you. I've always loved you, and if you ever want to talk, I'll be here." I read the message several times. I felt something soften in my chest. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but maybe with time, it could be. I didn't reply that night, but I saved the message. The following months were about rebuilding. I sold the condo in the city, too many dark memories there. I bought a smaller, more modern one, closer to the gym and my friends, a new place for a new stage. I traveled to Spain, where my niece welcomed me with open arms, and to Argentina, a place I had always wanted to see, to places I had put off for years because there was always something more important to do. I signed up for painting classes. I discovered I liked it. I wasn't good, but it didn't matter. It was mine, my time, my passion. Charlotte and I started a small business together, accounting consulting for older women who needed help with their finances. There was a real need. Many women who had never managed money, who depended on children or relatives, who felt lost. We helped them. We taught them. We gave them the tools to be independent. 1 year after the trial, Elijah and I met for coffee. It was awkward at first, but we talked, truly talked. He talked about his therapy, about how he was learning to recognize manipulation, about his divorce proceedings. I talked about my new life, my travels, my business. We didn't go back to what we were before. That relationship had died. But we were building something new, something based on mutual respect, clear boundaries, and honesty. One afternoon, 2 years after everything, I was at the salon with Charlotte. We were getting our nails done, laughing about something silly, when my phone vibrated. A message from my niece in Spain with a photo of her newborn baby. Charlotte looked at me. "Everything okay?" I smiled. "Yes, everything is okay," and it finally was, because I had learned the most important lesson of my life. Taking care of others is beautiful, but taking care of yourself is not selfishness. It's survival. It's dignity. It's self-love. For so many years, I had taken care of everyone. My husband when he was sick, Elijah as he grew up, whoever needed me. But finally, after 62 years of life, I was the one who decided whom to care for. And I chose myself. And that choice saved my life. Did you like my story, and which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.